want to speak to you guys about the different types of abuse. So there's so many different types out there, but I think the more popular of the ones, and I don't mean that in a good way, is that physical abuse. So physical abuse is something that we can see, something that we can diagnose very early on if it's something that is brought to our attention, at least visibly or visually, I should say. But one that I want to highlight, which is I think very dangerous because a lot of people go through it and the scars aren't as visible to other people, is emotional abuse. Emotional abuse impacts you in so many different ways. And I think many times what happens is that people are accepting of it is because we experience it in so many different aspects of our life. So, for example, you could be verbally, emotionally abused at work. You could be experiencing that at home. So when we bring it home and we spend 8 hours of work being abused in that way, then we come home and our family, our loved ones, our spouse abuses that in our way. We are always in a state of coping. And because we're always in a state of coping, we begin to think that this is normal. And because we think it's normal, we don't see the unhealthiness of it because we view normality as healthy. This is dangerous because what happens is then we start to look for these behaviors in other people, especially our relationships, and then it begins to impact us in negative ways. And then it takes someone on the outside to show us a different view, a different way of life. And when we see that different way of life, or when the person treats us in a way that we always needed to be treated versus how we always wanted to be treated, because if you're used to the unhealthy, that is what you want. If you're used to the unhealthy, that is not what you need. What you need is the healthy relationship. You need the person to be there for you, show you how beautiful you can be, how happy that you deserve to be. So when we go out there and surround ourselves by the unhealthy, we don't understand how damaging it can be. What I've come across is that some people who have such toxic relationships, the romantic sense, they begin to surround themselves with toxic friendships, but they don't realize these friendships are toxic because everyone that is included in that friendship group is equally toxic. You ever come across a group of friends, 4 or 5 people, where they all seem to be struggling in a similar way? They all seem to have bad relationships in the similar way. They all seem to be single in a similar way. And they all seem to be united, not because of their love of something, because of their hatred or dislike of something. And then what happens? You take someone who no longer wants to be the victim. You take someone who no longer wants to be united by a dislike or a hatred, who's going to search for love, who's going to search for the healthiness. Now they're put in a situation where they begin to step aside from that group. Their growth is now seen as competition. They're no longer shackled, no longer imprisoned by what is holding the other people hostage. And now they're in a difficult situation. Not only are they grieving who they used to be, not only do they see happiness at the end of the tunnel, there's a little bit of shame, a little bit of guilt of leaving behind or maybe outgrowing those who were there for them in their darkest moments, but they weren't there because of the love. They were there because they shared a similar dislike of something. You see this many times online where you see men saying that I hate all women, and then women on the other side is saying I hate all men. They're united by their dislike of something because very short term, very temporary, you can unite people faster through hatred and dislike. What is more long lasting is coming together through love. That's why when a relationship is working very well, when it's very healthy, that's why it stands a test of time. But when something is toxic, destructive, and hate filled, It can be very passionate, very hot in the beginning, and then it quickly fizzles out. In that type of dynamic with your friends or your loved ones, you will begin to feel emotionally abused because what they would do is they will crack jokes about the person you're becoming. They will make light of the situation. They will be dismissive, but you have to stand tall amongst that abuse because other people may not be able to see your scars, but you will see it. When you look in the mirror, you will see the pains, the scars, the cuts from the weight on your shoulders. You'll begin to see the blisters on your feet for the journey that you're walking many times alone. That is why emotional abuse is so well hidden because a lot of people on the outside don't see what we're going through, but you don't have to do it alone. Find someone who's going to love you for you, who's going to understand what you're going through. But most importantly, find someone who you can speak to about these situations because not everyone is truly your friend and not everyone is going to understand.